Change is coming fast in the financial services industry. To quote my friend Ferris Bueller, if you don't step back every once in a while, you might just miss it. Well, I'm joined by Bill Crager of Envestnet. Bill, welcome.
Great to be here.
Now, Bill, you mentioned during your speech today here at the Envestnet Advisors Summit that there's a lot of changes in this industry. Talk to me about some of that.
You know, the headlines all year have been about change and these market forces that are really impacting the way a financial advisor is going to work in the future. It's digital, technology is disruptive, you have regulation that becomes very disruptive, but then you also have the consumer, and I think this is the most powerful one, you know, the power to the user, and the user is the consumer, how much more informed they are and how they're disrupting kind of the traditional value proposition of advisors. They're asking for more, they're asking more questions, they're challenging advisors, both from a cost and a services standpoint. So you pull those pieces together. On top of that, you take demographics, aging baby boomers, emerging millennials, and on top of that, you take a market backdrop of investments going from active to passive,
Right.
High cost to lower cost, and when yields are very low, people look around and they say, oh, how am I going to make money? How am I going to be successful at this business? All of those things trigger the big word change, and I think the change is profound. Now, I believe the good news is that the industry is catching up to it. The technology, service providers, the infrastructure that advisors depend on, we're getting really close to being able to help advisors answer that challenge of change.
So this change is profound, and there's a lot of challenges facing advisors. You mentioned regulatory. Talk to me about how advisors are going to overcome that hurdle first so that they can concentrate on the client ultimately.
Yeah, and I think ultimately they're related to each other.
Yes.
You know, focus on the client and adapting to the regulation. Well, the fiduciary standard is all about acting in the best interest of the client. And advisors do that, although they're not held to it from a regulatory standpoint. So the good advisors are there, and they're going to continue to what they do, and they're going to grow significantly. There was a great fact this morning in the DOL panel about how in Europe, in London, RDR implemented it, changed the rules, and then the good advisors, they grew significantly. And I think the advisors that are working in an advice-based model, that are leveraging technologies, that are responding to the challenges their clients are asking them to respond to, you know, those firms are going to be very successful. The ones that don't, that aren't moving along with this tide of change, you know, there are big challenges ahead for them.
And that's so interesting, because I think what we're seeing is advisors have two options here. They can duck and cover and run away from these changes, or they can be proactive. Envestnet's been pretty proactive with some of these changes here.
Yeah, and that's what's been fun about the conference. Being here at the Advisors Summit, my sense is that, you know, over the year you had advisors with anxiety that maybe they're on their heels a little bit thinking about what does this mean? My conversations here have been advisors on their toes, and they're ready to kind of dive in and make the adapt to these market forces. Regulation, technology, demographics, and then the economic reality of our industry. And I think that really sets them up to be very successful. So we're super enthusiastic. You know, we're fully invested. I talked about this yesterday when I was able to speak to the audience, is how we're doubling down on the financial advisor. We believe the financial advisor is essential. We're investing in that advisor, and we really want to empower that advisor to, you know, be those firms that are successful in this new age of advice.
So what does it mean when you say you're doubling down? Is it financially doubling down? How do you guys double down on the advisor?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, there's been a conversation in the industry where everything can go be a technology-driven solution. And that could be, you know, no intermediary, direct to client. That's not Envestnet. We are 100% focused on the financial advisor and the institutions that serve them. We are not a consumer business in any way, but we're helping advisors engage differently with consumers. Investments are acquisitions of things that we've done, whether that's in the digital strategy, whether it's financial planning, whether it's data, other pieces we think are really important to that solution set for the advisor. Those are investments that we're making and uniquely making when other firms are kind of hedging their bet a little bit. They're a little bit in the consumer world, direct to their clients, but then they want to serve advisors. Well, we have a different posture. We're all about the advisor.
And part of being all about advisors is being a little flexible too. It's not just, hey, here's a one-size-fits-all solution. One of the great things Envestnet's done is kind of balance that and offer different solutions for every kind of advisor.
Yeah, and we talked about that, and it's something we're excited about announcing here at the conference, something called Open ENV, which is our core operating platform, which is not very sexy to talk about, but it processes 9 million accounts and does all these transactions, serving 50,000 financial advisors. I mean, those are big numbers. So we've got scale and enormous amount of efficiency that's created there. Now, an advisor wants to interact with our technology different than an investor does. So what we're doing is taking that core engine and firing it to the audience in a way that they can best utilize our technology. And along the way, in that ecosystem of doing that, we're integrating other applications that the advisor is depending on to make sure that it's a seamless ecosystem for them. So it goes from all the work they have to do to create an investment plan or a financial plan to a portfolio to execution, when the client has a different food chain, and that food chain goes from how am I doing, I want to raise some cash, I want to do these sorts of things. That's a different experience, and really we want to enable that. That's what Open ENV is, and I really think that opens the platform up to so many uses across our industry, to constituents, advisors, institutions, investors, and then the asset managers and other product providers that want to serve them.
It's incredible. The platform sounds amazing and a lot of flexible choices for a lot of different kinds of advisors. Thanks so much, Bill, for taking time for us.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you guys for being here. Really important that you're here. Thank you.
Absolutely. So for Investment News, I'm Matt Ackerman.